everyone. Welcome to another episode of CTO Podcast. I'm Sara Gonçalves, and with me I have Pedro Torres. And today we have another amazing guest. His name is José Pedro Nunes. Welcome, José.
Hi, thank you, and thank you for the invite. I think, and we were just chatting about it. I think that what you guys are doing here is inspiring, to be honest, for the Portuguese community, and I hope that you can continue to grow this.
Thank you.
I hope as well. Thank you.
Fantastic.
So, José, starting with the first one, tell us a bit about yourself for those that don't know you yet.
Okay, so I'm Portuguese. I live in Lisbon, near Lisbon, and I've lived in the same area all my life. I actually managed to stay in the same almost square mile. So
you need to say what it is now.
it's Carcavelos, Parede, so it's within this area, and yeah, we always brainstormed and discussed as a family if we should go somewhere else. Like you did, Pedro. You went to London and actually inside the country also moved recently. But I think we are really lucky to be raised here, and we are here and now raising our kids in the same area, which is like a family decision. So Portuguese from Carcavelos, and on a more kind of career angle, I started programming when I was very young. I was like 12 or 13.
Wow.
Okay.
By
Like
myself.
what? Spectrum, or was it already
No,
the...
after Spectrum. It was already in PCs.
Okay. I'm older than you. Got it.
I saw my sister programming in Spectrum with tapes.
Okay. There you go.
Maybe I was inspired by her. And so for me, it was very, very clear what I wanted to do in high school, in college, and as a professional. So I didn't have those type of internal discussions. Should I go this area or to that area? For me, it was very clear, and I think I was lucky because of it. So very straightforward path until I eventually attended a computer science degree in Nova, Universidade Nova, and then I started working as a software engineer. Very classical path again. And until eventually I decided to move towards a management career, and yeah, that has been my I would say experience in the last 7 years. It was as a manager in the engineering, software engineering area.
That's super cool. Why did you decide for the management piece? Like, at least I'm asking this because I think that it's starting to become an industry practice to have the Y-shaped career, right? So you go from software engineer, senior software engineer, and then you really can make that decision, kind of manager, director, and so on, or you definitely go for staff, principal. So you definitely went to the people management. I'm curious to know if it was something that it was exactly what you wanted, or if back in the day, maybe the tech industry was not that sophisticated and maybe it was probably like the only path that you saw to continue to develop.
It's a bit a mix, but I think even if it was already a Y-shaped kind of career progression back then, I would still choose the management one. There are a few reasons. One is I started working with better engineers than myself. Okay, although I started programming quite young, and I love technical challenges and the software development challenges. I started meeting people much better than me, really, and I
which is not bad, by the way, right?
No, I'm thankful for that. But then I realized that I was better at organizing the delivery of that work than developing the software, and at the same time, I was not bad at understanding people, which sometimes it's a bit harder for introverts or people that came from a very technical background. I don't think it was my case. So amongst my teammates, I could relate with most of their challenges and their concerns, and eventually take all of that into consideration and make better informed decisions because of it. So it was very natural, very organic, and that was it. And when I say it was organic, I actually, and maybe we will speak a bit about that again. This change happened at Sky, and Sky gave me the opportunity back then to try the path. So I started by managing half of a team. So inside the team, there was a stream of work that was very specific, and I managed that part without leaving the code, but starting.
Oh, so you were managing people, but continue to make technical contributions?
For a few months, yes. And then we did the full change, which was I became what we should call an engineering manager of one team. And on that one, I didn't have the technical context of what the team was building at front. Okay, obviously, I needed to ramp up on that. So because it was organic, it was safe to make the change. Okay, could always revert if it was not what both expected. When I say both, it's me and the company. So yeah, that I think having that safe environment helped on making the decision and continue this path.
Super cool. And that really begs the question that is, so you went through that experience, and well, I know your career, I'm a big fan of everything that you did so far. We already saw some people making some movements from individual contributors to managers. I think maybe we should talk more about that, to be honest. Like I see people talking about so many different topics, but one that definitely is like huge, and you, Sari, you went through that as well, right? Kind of from the moment that you decided you want to take a stab at managing, you're not 100% sure if this is the thing that you like. It's super comfortable to make, code contributions. At the end of the day, you look and see what you just did, then go to manager, and you have like a full calendar of meetings, no sort of code whatsoever. Maybe you end up the day thinking, okay, I haven't done anything useful. It's tough.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Sari's like, yep,
Yep.
that's familiar.
Yeah.
Zé, I'm calling you Zé because I'm your friend. So I don't.
Sure.
José. No, it's Zé. Zé, how do you see now the best sort of transition? So let's say that you have a senior engineer that comes to your team and said, look, I believe I should go to management. You agree with that? How would you recommend a transition to be made? Because the example that you give was super interesting because you had like a safety net.
Yep.
You tried. It seemed like it was not a trapdoor decision. And so I think that also played a big part on the success of the transition. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, definitely. And on top of all of what you said, Pedro, there's yet another thing that sometimes we take for granted, which is the soft skills that a manager needs, which are not taught at college, right? When you take a computer science degree, you learn how to code, you learn different technologies, architectures, but there's not much or at all around how to manage people, how to manage delivery, how to manage stakeholders. So all of that is learned on the job, or somehow you already have some natural skills around some of these disciplines, right? So I've seen some cases where people are kind of abandoned, like you are now a manager, good luck. And no one taught them anything besides whatever insights that person had in his experience or her experience. So considering that, and I am trying to answer your question, I think it's important to act like a manager before becoming a manager. And there are many opportunities to do so. One is when the manager is out of office, right, on holidays or whatever. we do that a lot. So we use those periods to fulfill kind of the PDP of the persons that are already willing to become a manager. And this has two advantages. One is that we can evaluate what are the skills that are missing and that we need to work on, and the person himself or herself also get on-field experience of what would be the job, because sometimes you visualize something that ends up being different in reality, right? So I think there's that. And even then there are a bunch of other things, like you can start by putting that person responsible for some of the ceremonies or responsible for the delivery of a specific initiative that exists in the team. So there are many small steps that you can work out, and I would suggest, and I think that is our experience, to work on those actions as a plan inside of what we call a person development plan, PDP.
Yeah.
Some companies call it a different thing, but within that. So starting by asking where the person is, where the person wants to be. Imagine that in a simple way, that person is a software developer, he wants to become an engineering manager. Then what is the gap between one and the other, and what is the action plan to mitigate that gap?
Super cool.
Yeah. And I can familiarize with all of this, and it's still fresh on my mind, the transition. And I also was lucky to get the challenge of being a team lead and not having like a final decision. Oh no, I'm going to follow a management path. And I remember that at the time, something that really helped me as well was to have a group of people managers as well. That was really helpful for me to share my pains and challenges with people that passed through them as well, and also shared with me some tips and tricks about how to handle those challenges. That was really helpful as well.
I agree.
Now, I'm curious about what José, what have been doing lately? Because now we talk about your journey.
Yeah.
Looking to the present, what have you been doing?
It has been quite a ride since I joined Reachdesk. So it's hard to detach the answer to that question from my journey at Reachdesk. So I joined 18, 19 months ago, and we were 3 engineers. There were 3 engineers in the team. And the mission, this was at Series A, and the mission was to use the Series A funding to do what companies do at that stage, which is increase sales, increase marketing, and increase engineering or product and engineering teams. And we did that. And fast forwarding 18, 19 months, we are now an organization of 50 people. So what I've been doing lately here was first to try to draft the blueprint of the engineering organization and put that blueprint into reality with hiring, lots of hiring, and you know how that goes. Hiring could be a topic for a whole session by itself, right?
Yeah.
So hiring, but the main thing I would say is to put in place, or to have in place, a continuous improvement mindset. Because when you scale like 15x in such a short period of time, the reality of the company, of the teams, change every 3 months, or even in shorter periods than that. So you need to be continuously adapting to the new reality. So you need to always be looking towards what are the processes that you put in place before that are not working anymore, or they need to be adapted. And this for me, it's a very humble exercise that we do as a team, because we need to detach ourselves from our egos, because whatever decision we've made in the past should be challenged, and that's fine, that's okay. Even I try to do that with my decisions also. And that creates kind of a continuous improvement mindset, and that's what I believe we are living, and allowed us to now that we are not focusing so much in hiring, to be in a different stage, a different phase where we are stabilizing the teams, betting more or investing more on maturing the teams instead of creating more teams and onboarding more people. We are now focusing on stabilizing the existing teams. And now that we have finally, to be honest with you, a complete group of engineering managers supporting all the teams, and now answering your question, what I've been doing lately, it's more focusing on strategic topics instead of on so much on the day-to-day activities of the hiring processes, the onboarding processes, the sprints delivery. I'm able in the last couple of months to step out a bit of that and focus on company strategic topics that I didn't have the bandwidth to focus that much before.
I have two questions here that just popped my mind, and I think they really need to have a great answer. So I will let you choose the order because the other is not super relevant. So one is, you just mentioned that you hired, or at least I know that you hired around, and correct me if I'm saying something wrong, 47 engineers or 45 engineers in how many months? 18 or?
Yeah, it was short, 16, around 16 months.
16. Yeah. So we first need to understand how you did that. Okay, so the market is crazy. Everybody wants to open a new office in Lisbon. Everybody wants to hire God knows how many engineers. You did that. So I think I want to learn from you. I want to know what, now looking back, like those months, what made the difference? That's kind of question number one. And I'm throwing another question at you as well. Sorry. That is, you joined Reachdesk and it was a small team. You're contributing for an amazing success story. What drove you at the very beginning to Reachdesk?
Okay.
So I have these two. Sorry.
No, that's great. Let me start with the last one. Okay, this is very personal, but for most of my management career, I assumed that managing more people, managing more teams was the success criteria. So if I had a team of 10, and I was promoted to managing a team of 30, I would have more success as a professional than when I was managing 10 people. I lived with this kind of goal of managing larger structures for many years. Okay. It turns out that in my case, it was a mistake because I was not happier. I didn't cause more impact because I managed more people. I could do this differently. And that was a change in the mindset, a brutal one in my case. So on a Friday, I was managing 100 people across 14 teams at Talkdesk. And on the next Monday, I was managing 3 engineers at Reachdesk. And I was having the time of my life. So a couple of things that drove me to join Reachdesk. Maybe 3. One was the team of founders that I met. I didn't knew any of them before, but I was convinced by the founders that I've met. They were great during the process, and they still are great now. So I'm really glad. The other part was that I wanted to go back to the baseline, to the day-to-day teams activities. I missed that. I was so far away from the developers, from where the magic is happening. I spent all my time in political meetings, trying to change things that were really, really hard to change and somehow outside of our control, but we would still argue and discuss those topics for hours. And I wanted to have more direct impact. So I wanted to go back to the ground, if that makes sense, and work closely with the teams. And the third and final thing, which I'm glad that it turns out to happen in the way we planned, was to scale the team from the ground up. And that means that we didn't have product managers, we didn't have product designers, we didn't have any engineering managers, and we had just 3 engineers. So the product development cycle was like a Trello board and the discussion between 2 founders. And they understood that didn't scale, that was not scaling. So being part of the discussions of how can we have I'm going to call it a world-class product engineering organization in a tech startup was one of the challenges that I wanted to embrace. And yeah, I think we are still trying to do that, but I think
it's looking pretty good.
A few steps ahead now. Yeah. I'm going to answer your first question now. It was so how did we manage to hire 47 people, right? Not just software engineers, so we also hired engineering managers and QAs.
So the entire structure, right?
Yeah, the entire structure. It was the first challenge, and I would say the hardest one since I joined. No one knew Reachdesk. Even today, it's something that we still need to do some work around it, and that's fine, that's okay. But back then, no one knew Reachdesk. Even myself, I didn't know Reachdesk. I was the first one in Portugal, so it was not easy. What we did was to rely on our network and assume that through references we would be able to convince people to join. So we started within the network. I started with a couple of people. We also partnered with one recruitment agency that helped us in
Interesting.
the process. Not outsourcing, just kind of headhunting. So just spotting candidates.
Spotting talent.
But they were great as well. We hired a couple of them through that. And at some point, this is like a snowball effect. It starts really slow, really hard, really small, but once it catches up speed, it doesn't stop. We are now having almost a hard time on slowing down the hiring process, slowing down the pipeline, because what happened is that it was word of mouth kind of event. So people started speaking with other people about us and tell us, I joined Reachdesk, they are great. I would like you to work with us. So do you want to join? Or I didn't accept to join Reachdesk, but I think this would be good for you. So do you want to join? And then again, as a snowball, this become larger and larger, and good people brings good people, because in the end, regardless of compensation, regardless of benefits, people want to work with good people. They want to work with people they trust, they look for. So I think we hired a couple of very senior and good software engineers that other software engineers wanted to work again with them. And that I think
fantastic.
That's it.
No, for sure. There you go. Like all companies now can at least follow a recipe of success of how to scale a team in like a year or so. Super cool. Yeah. Thank you. And fantastic.
This happened on the pandemic years, right?
Oh, yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Wasn't that like an extra challenge on top of all of that? How did you manage to grow a team like all remote and with all this pandemic in place?
That's a very good point. I think there are a couple of things to it. One is that we feel that there's a culture, actually a very strong one, even though we are all remote. And I don't mean just engineering team, I mean Reachdesk. There are values, there are strong values, there are many people that feel Reachdesk culture in the air, although we are all at home. And I didn't expect that. If anyone 3 years ago asked me if that was possible, I would say no. You need to be in the office to create a good culture. Otherwise, you can work, but the culture won't be there. It will not be the same. And I haven't felt that here. It's the opposite. So something that I learned. the second part is the onboarding process. I think we did a good job, and it's one of those processes that we have been iterating on since the beginning. As an example, we have now what we call the fresh eye reports, which is anyone that joins in 4 weeks, they fill out a very simple report telling us what they felt during the onboarding, what we can improve, what we should keep, etc. And we listen to all this feedback. But this is quite recent. But the mindset was there since the beginning. It's a simple one. We have things like a buddy. So when you join an office, a new company, and you are in an office, you usually you have colleagues next to you, right? You reach out to them just by talking to your left or to your right. At home, you don't have anyone. You have Slack, you have Discord. Who do I reach out to? And we have a buddy, who is that person who is your colleague next to you. This is just an example. We have a knowledge base center for tech, for processes, and this might sound like a big thing, but it's not. It's a small knowledge center, but it's still, I think it answers most of the first questions that the people have. So onboarding was quite key for us to achieve this, I would say.
Sarah needs to go to the mail. To the mail guy. Go. José, one thing that I'm seeing is, so you started back in the day, 2010, I believe. No, not even before that, but definitely I see, that you had a moment in your life that you were working for consultancies, like one that stands out here is like Nova Base, which is remarkable Portuguese company. Don't get me wrong. I think it's Portuguese, but definitely like an important one in the Portuguese landscape. And then you turned around or you moved left or right, depending on the point of view, and you went more to product companies, right? We both worked at Sky. We both worked at Talkdesk. So I believe it's a very different sort of company. How could you compare these both worlds? So do you see yourself as someone that, I consider you extremely successful. So do you think that part of that was possible because of your shift to product companies, SaaS companies, and that definitely is playing a big role in the way that you're been developing your career? Do you think that the sort of thing that you've been doing, it could also be possible to be done in a consultancy company? Like how different these two worlds are in your opinion?
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one, a hard one as well. So
sorry.
No, that's good. So the weird thing is that no one explained, and I don't think no one explains to anyone, what choices do you have when you start your career, right? And maybe this is something that we can work on to improve, because no one told me that there are product companies that you can work for, and this is the type of work that you can expect and benefits, etc. Or you can be a consultant, or you can be an academic. No one lays out for you this. They just throw you out in the world and say it's your turn, do whatever you want to. And so it's a kind of a luck game, right? A chance game.
Yeah, it is.
So I don't think I made a decision to move out of consultancy to product. I was lucky to
just by chance.
Just by chance, yes. That I would prefer to tell you that no, I thought about this like 15 years ago, but I didn't. I think I should use this to help younger people in that. But that's maybe a follow up. It's very different, okay? Because once I went to product, I didn't want to go back. Okay, that was very clear to me. I love to work in a place where I feel that part of it is mine, part of the success is mine, part of the failures are mine as well, and I feel that my work has impact in the business. And if you are a consultant, eventually you are moving from project to project, so definitely you will impact the business, but you are not there to see the outcome, right? Eventually, and I want to be accountable for the outcome in later stages. So that's one of the drivers. The second one is the type of work where, at least in my experience at Sky, but at TalkDesk, they were very strong at TalkDesk in providing a good product design and engineering culture, where you have different departments, different types of professionals working together towards the same goal. And that was not my experience as a consultant. It was like, you have this task, you perform this task. If you are done with it, you need to stay here the full schedule anyway. But this is it. You don't need to think outside of this very specific area. Okay. While in a product company, again, in my experience, you can think outside of your area of scope, and you can act outside of the area, and that actually usually that is rewarded. As a consultant, just FYI, a very small story. In Caixa Geral de Depósitos, we didn't have proper internet, as you can imagine, no YouTube, no Amazon, no nothing, right? So I had my job to be done, and I was quite quick at it. So I was bored, okay, in front of my PC without nothing to do, okay. So lots of coffees, lots of breaks, but the work was done. So what I did was bringing USB pens from home to work on projects that I was working at home as well. So I was programming personal projects in a different context, because I wanted to do more, and I was not allowed kind of to grow outside of that very specific task that I needed to fulfill. But maybe there are better experiences than mine. Okay, so
I think this is going to be a good bridge for the next question that I have here. Although I think you never lived outside of Portugal, right? But you passed through several companies, like you were mentioning, TalkDesk, now Reachdesk. So there you have several experiences, and I wonder, and you also grow a team. So I wonder if you could share with us, how do you see the tech scene in Portugal?
So I believe that Portugal is very special in the technology area right now. We are not a very large market talent pool. We don't have a very large talent pool compared with larger countries. Okay, just because of the numbers, there's nothing that we can do about it. But in average, I believe that we have a very strong talent in average compared with other countries. I've never met a specific country where the talent was better than ours in average. Again, whatever this means, okay, we can discuss what average means. Sure. How can we measure this? This is my subjective perception of all the people that I worked with, okay? And I mean this not just in software engineering, but many other disciplines like SRE, QAs, product management, product design. We have a very good culture. And for me, that is the baseline. So we have very good conditions to have a great tech environment in Portugal, and I believe that we are starting to have. There are other areas of improvement, and this is my kind of continuous improvement mindset. But we touch one of the points, which is, I believe we need to grow better leaders. We cannot just throw out in the world people that are good in hard skills, design, programming, whatever, and just say, hey, we need you to become a manager. Now you are a manager. Please perform the same way as you were performing before. Well, I think we need to invest a bit more in that. And I'm seeing that, by the way. I think we are doing a better job than we were before. Like 10 years ago, management in Portugal, it was like world class, right? I that's an euphemism. But I think it's getting better. But I think there's still work to do for us as leaders to help growing other leaders, because that is not being taught at schools. That is my perception. So that's one. The second part is that we have great colleges, but I believe they struggle with budgeting. I believe they struggle with investment. And if we can invest more in our colleges, they will do more for the tech scene. And by the way, I don't think someone needs to be successful in our area. In order to be successful, they need to go to college. I'm not saying that, okay? But they do have a role, and I think we could invest more there. And that's it. And the final thing is that I feel a sense of community growing, and that is new to me. I don't think that existed a few years ago, and I'm starting to feel a sense of community in Portugal. And CTO's PT and this podcast is a move towards this community sense. And if we have more of that, if we enlarge that, if we have more people feeling part of a Portuguese tech community, I think we will all benefit. And I believe there's appetite and room for that. That is my current thinking on this.
No, for sure. No, really well said. I think that we've been going through a huge journey. Just like you said, like 10 years ago, we pretty much didn't have any single SaaS company, right? It was not even a thing, right? You didn't have product managers on the job market because there was no need for them, right? It would be just software developers, project managers, and software architects, maybe. We really came a long way to definitely become a thing in Europe, but even besides Europe, like the interest that companies in the United States show regarding the Portuguese talent it's remarkable, right? And in between opening an office like Reachdesk did, hiring directly or remotely, using the remote.coms of this life to reach out to the Portuguese talent. Definitely we are developing here. I can agree more. We are developing a community that definitely has a say, in the European landscape of technology. No, absolutely.
Right.
Very well. We are pretty much at the end. I've been having a blast here and wishing that this couldn't end, but it needs to we need to land the plane on this one.
Yeah.
Like usually Sarah likes to say that we have like 3 more relaxed or fun questions. That's more or less what you tend to say.
Yeah.
But I've been having fun since the beginning, so to me it's just more questions. But they are different ones for sure. So these are like the last 3 curveballs that we are going to throw at you. And so I think I can start with the first one. That is, I usually like to ask this to people. The answers tend to be wildly different. So I'm curious to know yours. And so the question that I have here for you is, what do you believe is your superpower, José?
Okay, superpower. I don't think I have a superpower. I think one skill that I have that helped me a lot during my career was my attempt to be good with people, be good working with people, understanding people. It's something that I'm passionate about, to understand what makes people tick, what makes myself tick, to be honest, because that's also a never-ending journey. That specific skill that I try to evolve helps me on hiring the right people. And sometimes hiring the right people is a mix of knowing people, reading people in a short amount of time, right? Because the interviewing process, the hiring process it's a short one, and understand the context where that person will be working on, because you might be great, I might be great, but I might be great at Reachdesk. I might have challenges, a different struggle in a different environment. So that skill has helped me in hiring good people, I believe, and also in managing different stakeholders, customers, prospects, etc. Because it can get political, right? It can get hard, subjective, having discussions with other departments, with other people in leadership positions in a company. And in the end, if you do understand people, if you learn about what makes people tick, and you help them achieve their goals, eventually you will become more successful and you will become more effective in your own role, in your own job. So that I think it's the where I invest the most right now.
Nice.
Cool.
I agree. It's a good one.
Let's go for the second one. Now, imagine that you could have any alternative job title, any job in the world, no limitations here. What would you choose?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to give a very creative answer. In the end, what I believe I am, it's an engineering manager. I would live really well if my job title is an engineering manager. In the end, that's what I do. I manage engineering teams with the delivery side, with the people side, with the tech side, regardless of the title, the level, whatever. That's what I am. I'm an engineering manager.
Nice answer.
No, super egoless. Love it. Last one, just before we close. So you've said that you never worked abroad, so I get that one. Nevertheless, I'm imagining that you traveled at least a few times. But since we are thinking about Portugal, so I don't know how into sweets you are, but we are kind of we are creating a book. So this is kind of, we haven't announced this yet. We are going to create a book of desserts of everyone that spoke in this season. This actually is not true anyway, but but we are super curious to understand what is your preference in terms of desserts. It can be just Portuguese, and if it's just Portuguese, you need to name like 2 or 3. If you want to be more creative and say, oh, I actually had that, that travel on, I ate that and that was freaking amazing, we want to hear that as well. So it's fine.
Okay. There are a couple of things that on top of my mind right now. One is I think we are the best at doing desserts in Portugal. Okay, we have great desserts, and if it was a Portuguese only dessert, I would choose Tocinho do Céu as an example.
Okay,
but yeah, I'm a fan of this type of desserts. If actually the last time I did a leisure trip outside Portugal was a couple of months before the pandemic hit, and it was to Budapest in Hungary. And the thing that I remember eating there is something called gerbaud cake. I can write it down. I don't know how to spell it, and it's great. It has like sweet and the chocolate and the mix of layers of pastry. So it's really, really good, and I would eat that again as well. I still believe the Portuguese ones are better.
Yeah, we need to make a book, Pedro. I think that's book idea. Yep, I will follow up on that.
CTO's cookbook.
Why not? Well, this has been a great conversation, and I think this last question, I think it's the perfect end for the conversations that we have been having. Thank you so much, José. Thank you so much for sharing all those insights and tips and tricks in this management world. And for our listeners, thank you for being there, listening to us, and see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Bye.